The Center for Freedom and Equity at Binghamton University unveiled a statue to honor the life and work of a pioneer of the Underground Railroad. 12 News' Brian Melanson was at the ceremony and brings us more.
During its use, it is commonly believed that the Underground Railroad helped 100,000 slaves reach freedom. A prominent conductor, Harriet Tubman, led thousands of slaves out of captivity. Several sites in the Binghamton area were used as safe houses along the route. To honor her work, a statue of her likeness was unveiled at the Binghamton University Downtown Center. Those who spoke reflected on what Tubman's legacy means to the area.
I hope we see this statue and this trail as a symbol of what we can do when we work together as a community.
Others spoke about how her sacrifice helped blaze a trail for the civil rights movement.
Without her belief that the words of the Declaration of Independence must mean what they say, there would be no Bud Fowler, there would be no Martin Luther King Jr., and you and I may not be here today.
The unveiling was capped off by a few remarks by direct descendants of Tubman's. The statue will serve as a reminder of the life and humanitarian work of an American hero for generations to come.
In addition to its tremendous contribution to a community's vibrancy, the spirit of Harriet Tubman's remarkable legacy will now have a permanent presence here in Binghamton.
Brian Melanson, 12 News, Broome County.